This is the future. Evolution. This is the future. Evolution.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Beyond BMR. Of course, I'm your host, BMR, Bigfoot Michigan Rob, in the house. Also in the house from Studio B, from the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast, the lovely Krista. If you have yet to subscribe to the Blondes and Booze Paranormal Podcast, please do on YouTube. Also, if you're new here, subscribe to Bigfoot Michigan Rob on YouTube, Texas Front Porch. Donnie Show Says Stuff, Our Paranormal World with Monica Rollins. Truth or Tinfoil with Randy, Brandy, and a couple others. The Diva Dimension. And Hunting in the Shadows podcast with my guest. And you can find the link here in the video or in the live show. Dennis Carroll will be joining us shortly. I think Paranormal Paul as well. Subscribe to Paranormal Paul. Thank you for that. And you guys all seen the introduction to our conference that we have going on. We'll talk about that in a minute. Before I get into that, thanks to everybody who's bought both of my books, or one or the other. Bigfoot Michigan Represents True Cryptid Encounters, Book 1, and of course, Book 2. They're both found on Amazon. Type Bigfoot Michigan Rob in your Amazon browser. Leave a review. It's all analytics these days. It's all analytics. Book 1, you might find another 4 months on your bookseller's shelf, which is Barnes & Noble. I'm working on something to get that distributed through them. So that'd be pretty cool. Working out some details with them. So that'd be nice. So thanks to everybody for that. If this is your first time here, don't forget the Super Chat's open. It's a great way to help support what we do around here. Also, you can become a BMR pirate. Join today. Join the many. Join the few, depending on your point of view, of course. Thanks for that. And I'm going to bring up the lovely Krista and talk about this conference before we bring up Mr. Carroll. And here she is in 3, 2, 1.
Here I be.
Hey, how's it going, Krista?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing very good. I was excited to have Dennis on tonight. It could be a fantastic show as always.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a fascinating topic tonight.
We do.
We're going to talk about super intelligent wolf packs, their secret infiltration into society. Are they dimensional beings? Are they supernatural? So I can't wait to get that started here in just a few minutes. Again, thanks to everybody for coming on in. You know, did you get any snow today? I got it's starting to snow already.
Really?
Yeah, I know. Big deal. It's Michigan. It happens, but we weren't supposed to get until the weekend, and here we are on Tuesday. So it's coming in a little bit early.
Gotcha.
I did want to thank everybody for the well wishes and prayers for my mom. You know, she's been under the weather for a long time. BMR's been under the weather for a long time, too. I'm finally getting better. Then all of a sudden, I started having a sneeze attack. So I had to go take an allergy pill. So hopefully that's all that is. Because I just finally I'm starting to feel a lot better. Mama's getting better. So thanks, everybody. I noticed in the chat that had asked about her, and she's doing a lot better.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you guys for that.
For sure.
And, you know, Chris, I got to tell you, this conference we're going to have, I must say, I think knock on wood, I'm not going to count my chickens before it's hatched, but man, I think we're going to have a hell of a turnout, as y'all have seen the earlier banner.
Yeah.
The Crossing Realms Conference, UFOs, Paranormal, and Cryptid, September 19th and 20th. It's in Missouri, Richmond, Missouri. Come on down and check that out. We've got a fantastic lineup. These are just our speakers alone. We added Brian Bowden and Miguel from Sasquatch Theory. They're yet to make it to the banner here. Jason McLean, ever changing the banner. I know. Thanks, Jason. Josh Hurd, filmmaker, author, lecturer in the paranormal. And he's also, what house does he always do his shows from, Krista?
Malvern Manor.
That's right. He'll be there as a speaker. Professor Heather Mosier from the Small Town Monsters, producer. Frankie and Dan from the Haunted Garage will be there, and they're bringing a haunted car for us all to check out. Master of Ceremonies is Tex Wesson. Filmmaker, researcher, has a fabulous film out. Greg Ogles, William Lunsford, Falk Monster Hunter will be there. Ronald Murphy, Lady Ann Celine, Dr. Dean Bertram, or the other speakers. Dana Stricker, Ken Gerhard, Brent Thomas, our other special guests. And, you know, Krista, we've added a couple more, which I should probably know by now. Familiar. Who are they, Kristen?
So our special guest, we have Ken Gerhard, Dana Stricker,
Yes.
Brent Thomas, Ryan Edwards, Mike Familiant, Christopher Garitano, David Glidden, Linda Eastburn, and Danielle Stedman.
Yeah, I got to get that written down. It's another, you know, they're hanging out with us. They're going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Not speaking, but they're going to be there to talk with everybody.
Yep.
And our ghost hunt is sold out because we're having a ghost hunt also. And I got to tell you, Krista, I can't believe it's sold out. And people are banging on the doors that want to attend it. We're kind of in a good problem here, kind of a conundrum. But hey, there's only so many people we can fit in that place.
Right. We have to keep it where we can, fit in there. Also, I will say that I know for those that are missing out on the ghost hunt and who wanted to get tickets and go check it out, because the museum will be locked that day just because she'll be with us, the curator. She will open it up at a certain time, and she is going to do a haunted ghost tour during the day, but you'll have to sign up on our Eventbrite, and that will be free. And we'll put that out here shortly when I get more information from her about that. So.
Yeah, like I said, I can't wait. I can't wait to meet a lot of the people that follow
Mhm.
us, whether you're in the chat room or just a subscriber to us. I mean, wherever you are in the world, I love chit chatting with everybody, and this will be just a great show. It's going to be a great 2-day event, and I
Yeah.
just can't wait. So, hello to
Yep.
everybody in chat. If I did not say hello to you, love and appreciate all of you for your support. So, thank you for that.
Yep.
So, we're going to move into this because I got a great friend of mine. He's been on several times, a fan favorite, one of my favorites, and one of the most knowledgeable guys when it
Mhm.
comes to this phenomena. Also, you can find him on the Hunting in the Shadows podcast. He's got several books on Amazon. My friend, Dr. Dennis Carroll.
Good evening. Hello,
Good
Crystal.
evening.
Rob.
Hello.
Been a
Hello.
while. It's a
Coming.
pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it seems like I have you on every day, but it's been a while. You're on right around Halloween, I think, last time you were on.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But we,
Always usually maybe around Halloween or Christmas. One of
Yeah,
the-
I
always-
think I'm on blondes around on Christmas.
yeah,
yeah.
for everybody, my favorite people, like Dennis is, of course, one of them. I always, because I love the holidays, so I always save Dennis for Halloween and Christmas. I don't think I had you this Christmas, but I always get you on, and then one other time during the year. And I've been on your show a couple times, which I enjoy coming on your show. Hunting in the Shadows podcast. The link is on YouTube. It's posted here for y'all. Go subscribe to Dennis. You won't regret it. Great show. He's on. You're on what, Dennis? About 3 times a week now.
Yeah, I have 3 shows on Monday nights at 9:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I have with my good friend Gerald Fountain, we do the Road Less Traveled. We sort of
Mhm.
do the offbeat things for the podcast with that. And then Wednesday nights at 9:00 p.m. All my shows are 9:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's Hunting the Shadows. And then Friday nights, Paranormal Point of View. That's where we do movie reviews, books, stuff. Matter of fact, I've done your books on there several times. And
Yes,
Cool.
thank you.
I enjoy getting into sort of looking at stuff from the paranormal point of view on things.
Very cool.
And the paranormal is where it's at with Dennis, outside of cryptids and demonic entities, ghosts, you name it. And today's show, Dennis, is a little different because we were talking the other day, and we're discussing maybe what should we talk about. And you came up with a topic that I'm not that familiar with. You said you've been doing some research involving these super intelligent wolf packs, right? That are infiltrating society, our society. And we're wondering whether or not they're paranormal, supernatural, where they came from. I mean, and what these creatures are. So if you kind of want to, walk us through your findings and what's your thoughts on this fascinating subject tonight?
Well, this is a fascinating subject. It's got a lot of conjecture to it, but I think a lot of the clues that we find for some of this stuff are in folklore and in culture. And when I'm talking about worldwide cultures, especially with the indigenous Americans, the American Indians, they talk about wolf packs being very much like tribes or clans or families. The way that wolf packs are structured is very unique and very intelligent. These animals, on a intelligence level, I think, are very close to man in that respect. And what we're going to talk about tonight is the fact is there may be an element to it that is even beyond our intelligence, without a doubt. I don't know if you're familiar with this movie, but it came out years ago and is based on a book by Whitney Strieber called Wolfen, Wolfen.
Hmm. I remember that movie.
I'm
Yeah,
familiar with wolf.
it's very
Mhm.
great. It's a great movie, by the way, and it comes out with a very interesting theory that there is a super intelligent society of wolves that live concurrently with us that we don't know about. and that they supposedly have the ability to cloak themselves. They have a super intelligence to them. As a matter of fact, I call them Canis Lupus Maximus. They would be the supreme wolf that you would get to, definitely. This would be, I think, when you think about extraterrestrials, you think about bug-eyed aliens from Centauri or somewhere like that. Well, what if they are more familiar to us than what we think? What if these interdimensional beings look like some things we're already familiar with, but only a few steps higher in intelligence and ability? That would be a fascinating thing to think about. And if you were to encounter some of this stuff in nature, you would be up against a very highly, shall we say, involved predator that would take you down in a hurry. As a matter of fact, would look at it this way, and there are some clues to it, that these wolves, or we call them super wolves, whatever name you want to call them, would be highly intelligently evolved, but also, like I said, they would be able to cloak themselves. They could move in our society without us knowing it.
Mhm.
They would also consider us their top competitor, but they would also put us on their menu, because that's where you put your competitor if you can. You put him on sort of the food chain, and that's where we would be with these guys. So there is a theory that if these things do exist, and like there are some clues that they may possibly do that, that if they exist, they are feeding off of us. They are hunting us as prey. This may be why there are a lot of people that disappear in some of the national parks, and a lot of the homeless people that disappear in larger cities.
Mhm.
The interesting thing about this, Rob and Krista, is the fact that these things, if they exist concurrently with us, but yet hidden from us, because they are super intelligent, they're not going to give themselves away. They're going to hide themselves from us. They're going to cloak themselves when necessary, unless they absolutely have to show themselves for a certain purpose. They're going to feed off of us, and
Excuse
they're
me,
going to use us for food,
real,
definitely.
not to interrupt you, but really quickly, why are they so intent on cloaking or hiding from us?
I think it would. I'm not going to say they're supernatural, but I think they would be highly evolved
Mhm.
to the point where they can change their molecular structure when they want to. And like we said earlier before the show, we were talking about interdimensional things. These things would be definitely interdimensional beings. So these wolves, these super wolves, don't really come from Earth per se. Although they run on Earth, they use Earth as their feeding grounds, as their hunting area. They don't really come from here. They're aliens in that respect, but they're interdimensional. They can move back and forth between dimensions when they want to. Now, when you are able to do that, that means you can shapeshift as well.
Gotcha.
That's an interesting thing.
It's
Mhm.
interesting. It sounds more like an alien ship shaping predator
Mhm.
here on our planet. At that kind of right.
Mm-hmm. Very much like that, and very much like the Predator movie. And here's another thing, and there are many reports of people seeing these, what sometimes we call glimmer man. Some of these other things is supposedly a thing is a cloaked individual or being. You remember the Las Vegas aliens supposedly were cloaked. You remember that? That went
Mhm.
on about they went out in the backyard.
Right.
That it would be a premier thing, a talent to have. If you were going to invade or be an invasive species, you would definitely harness something like that to move
Right.
around your prey. And if you're super intelligent, like we say about these certain types of wolves, if you're super intelligent, you're going to use that talent to
Mhm.
your own best interest. And if you can master time and space by interdimensionally moving from place to place, that's another talent that you would have.
Right.
So, like you and I, if we want to go somewhere, if we want to go to McDonald's, we got to get in the car and drive there, and go through the drive-in and all that stuff. But if you were interdimensionally moving, you would just from one moment to the next, from point A to point B, you would just step through a doorway to get where you want. This makes sense, perfect sense in the way that you would travel and utilize time and space.
Right.
And I think if you were going up against a very highly intelligent species like that they would definitely have mastered that,
Right.
without a doubt.
Why do you think they're here?
I think they have been with us for a long, long time. Okay, there are many clues, like I said, in folklore, going back through time. And I like to look at the origins of things, go back and try to find out where something started or how it began or why it's talked about in that respect. And you see some clues in folklore. And like I said earlier about how the indigenous peoples felt about the wolf pack. Let me explain the wolf pack to you for just a moment.
Yes.
And the wolf pack is super supreme in the way it is laid out. Wolves don't usually attack human beings, although they have a bad reputation for that. Usually, under the right circumstances, they avoid us. They avoid contact with human beings because wolves are smart. Okay, they're not stupid, and they know that their number one predator, their number one competitor, is a human being. Okay, but they have other ones too, like bears, cougars. The list goes on and on that they compete with. But man, without a doubt, mankind would be the most dangerous to them, so that they would have to be the most wary of. But when you look at the way a wolf pack is structured, it is, like I said earlier, like a family. Listen, it's a family unit. It's a clan. If you look, that there are, when they walk in a line through the forest, they are laid out with guards to protect the flank, the sides, to protect the older wolves, to protect the young wolves, to protect the females. The females are very important because they are, that's what that has the cubs, So it is a family unit, and it is highly intelligent the way it's laid out when you study it. Wolves are fascinating animals. I have studied them for years, and they are among some of the most intelligent species that you want to think. So what if you were to encounter wolves that are even more intelligent than your regular normal kind of wolf? That's what we're talking about here. And there are supposedly signs and supposedly stories of super wolf packs, by the way. Here's an interesting fact. The American Indians call the wolf a tribe or a nation because they were very much like people. They were structured the way the tribes were structured in that respect. They respected them because of that, because they were so highly intelligent. But what if you had something even beyond that, an alien intelligence?
Right.
That would be super intelligent. That would be a very, very dangerous predator, especially to man. And if it were, like I said, feeding off of us, taking care of the homeless people, or unaliving some of the people in the national parks and places like that, that would be definitely how they would be feeding. That was the smart way to think about it. When you think about how very smart and intelligent that would be, is your number one way to survive. Living concurrently with us and yet feeding off of us and yet wary of us as well.
It's a pretty scary thought when you think about it.
It is kind of scary. And what type of threat, they're all secretive, alien type, supernatural, whatever you want to call them, predators here on Earth. It might sound like a dumb question, but what is there a threat that you think they do pose to us, or do you think they just are lurking in the shadows? Are they opportunistic, or are they just if we don't bother them, they won't bother us, or they have a ulterior motive, do you think?
Until, of course, we encroach upon their territory.
Okay.
These things are very territorial. And once we sort of threaten them in that way, that's when you may have an encounter that may go very badly. And there are other stories of supposedly these wolf packs actually very intelligently hunting down people that got in their territory or threatened their packs. That stands to reason, and I've said this before, we were never off the menu. We've always been on the menu, okay? And for certain things out there, I think without a doubt they are hunting mankind.
Oh,
And this may be one of those things it is, definitely. To me, the most fascinating part of the wolfen, as we would call them, is the fact that they're so secretive.
Mm-hmm.
That is where it comes all. That shows you a very highly intelligent and a very evolved being that can be so secretive that the thought only the American Indians talk about these things. I think there is there are some stories in Siberia that also mention some of this stuff. Some of the indigenous people of Siberia also talk about it, but they don't talk about it very much because it's like a secretive thing. It's just something that you don't, like we have certain rules in the Appalachian Mountains. If you see something, it's best not to talk about it. Or if you hear something, it's best not to mention it. That is sort of a rule that's on, and that's the way the indigenous peoples feel about this. Same way it is with skinwalkers. They know it's there. They know it exists, but they don't want to recognize it because that gives it more power over them. And I think that's where these super intelligent wolves fall in line. The indigenous peoples know they exist and know they've always been with us for a long, long, long time and still are with us, living in our cities now. Think about this a moment. Not just in the wilderness areas, but living in the cities, in the slums, in the different parks and stuff in the cities itself. Supposedly, they know, the indigenous peoples know that these beings exist and that they hunt us on occasion, especially when we get in their territory. But like I said, they're very highly intelligent. They're very secretive. They're not going to give themselves away for no cause, for no good reason.
I definitely want to keep this on the same subject, but I have to interject this. Do you think that we've all done this? I've done it many times. Dennis, you have. Krista and Brandy have on various shows when we talk about dogman or even werewolves, right? Do you think some of these encounters, experiences that we receive, and guests that we have on could be talking about, in fact, these wolf packs, these secret wolf packs that keep themselves from us? That maybe I thought, hey, Rob, I saw a dog man. But now after today's show, I'm thinking, well, maybe you didn't really see the dog man. That's what we're talking about tonight.
Well, here's another thing about this supposed secret intelligent wolf pack is the fact that they have evolved. These are not normal wolves. They don't, although they share a lot of attributes with wolves that we know about, the natural wolves, they also have some different attributes. I think one of them may be the fact that they can walk around like people. They can walk around on two, bipedal instead of on four legs. They can do that when necessary. Okay. I think these things are so super involved that they can, like I said earlier, change their molecular structure to do what they need to do. There are many reports, Rob and Krista, of people seeing so-called, I'm going to put this in parentheses, dogmen, dressed in uniforms or wearing clothes or wearing feathers. The list goes on and on. What's going on with that? that is another clue of these supposedly super intelligent
Mhm.
beings, that they are able to walk among us in that way, and in some respects very much like us, but yet they are still different. They are still wolves in that respect, but they can be very much like the dog man. But I'm not saying this is the dog man, because you're dealing with dogs and you're dealing with wolves. It's a bit the interesting thing about the dog man and the wolf. They're, you're looking at really two somewhat different species.
So
The
how would you
wolf,
tell the
yeah,
difference, like, between a dogman and these
yeah,
creatures?
you've got a lot of similarities, but you got to look at the species in nature. The
Mhm.
wolf is different than the dog, and the
Right.
dog is different than the wolf. We have dogs, we have wolves. They may share some common traits, but yet there's still two distinct animals in that respect. And so what we're talking about here are not dog men, but wolf people, like
Mm.
that actually walk around like human beings on two legs, but yet these are like wolves, super intelligent wolves that can change their molecular structure. They supposedly can cloak themselves when they need to. They can shapeshift in certain aspects. Now, I'm not saying they can shapeshift and turn into a stump or look like a buffalo when they want to, but I'm saying they can shapeshift in by changing their shape to different factors. In other words, like they can walk upright or they can walk on all fours when they want to, in that respect.
Gotcha. Interesting.
So
You
what you're
know,
looking at is really sort of like a highly evolved werewolf, but
I
the
was
werewolf
thinking
is
werewolf.
a being of a supernatural nature,
Hmm.
whereas these things are more natural. In other words, you know what I'm saying? They're more part of nature than supernatural in
Hmm.
that respect, although they are supposedly highly involved and highly intelligent as well.
Wow.
Chris, did you have another question, or did you have something you wanted to ask? Because I something on my top of my mind before I
No, go
forget.
ahead. I had think when he was talking about it, like standing upright and stuff, I was thinking werewolf as well. So
You know what I'm thinking, Dr. Dennis Carroll. You can find Dr. Dennis Carroll on Hunting the Shadows podcast, found on YouTube. I have Dennis's link here and posted in this live show. He's got many, many great books that you can also find on Amazon. Just type Dr. Dennis Carroll on Amazon and you'll find it. And he also has a website. So thanks to that. And really briefly, go to my Sunny blog 111. I got to tell you, Sunny is like our number one marketer now. All of a sudden,
yeah,
Sunny promotes the hell out of myself, the blondes and Tex. She's been with
Mhm.
us for years, and she kind of, made herself known to all of us. So thank you, Sunny. Go check out her awesome blog on Facebook. Sunny, if you're still out there, drop your link. So this reminds me what we're talking about here. There's secret societies of human beings. And I got to tell you, we have werewolves. Some people believe, some people don't. I happen to believe in all of this genre we talk about. Do you think there's a secret society of these beings, albeit they're not humans? We talk secret societies way back in the day, maybe with the Masons and this, that, and the other. But do you think they are a secret society of aliens to transform into these supernatural creatures? And maybe there's a society of werewolf humans, right? That change or shapeshift. It just entered my mind. And I think, why not with what we're talking about here today?
Well, I think a very interesting aspect of this. Have you ever heard of the Hounds of God?
I have
That's supposedly were a secret sect of werewolves sanctioned by the church to do the work of God. Supposedly, these werewolves would fight demons and other monsters, etc. But they were called the Hounds of God. And supposedly this was exposed as a secret society back in the Middle Ages by a guy, I cannot think of his name now. But anyway, he supposedly confessed to being a hound of God and said there were more than him. There were a sect of them sanctioned by a secret sanction by the church to carry on the work of, let's say, work that was very secret that they didn't want people to know about. Here's an interesting aspect of that. Are you familiar with the movie Silver Bullet? Of course, by Stephen
Oh, yeah.
King.
Oh, yeah, I love that
Do
one.
you remember the priest in that movie thought he was doing God a favor by going around and unaliving some of the bad people in the
Mm-hmm.
town? He was a hound of God. Okay, that's what he considered himself to be, and that's what these guys supposedly called themselves. And they were werewolves that could actually change into wolves by using the werewolf pelt, by using black magic to accomplish what they wanted to do. They were supernatural beings when they changed into these things, but they were sort of doing the work of God, which is kind of strange because you're using evil to fight evil. That doesn't usually ever work out good when you do that. Uh, but that was an interesting aspect of that too. And there have been, I think, down through time, and that we could do a show on nothing alone but these secret societies, like the Illuminati and all the rest of these things that supposedly have been involved in stuff throughout our entire history, and they are still with us supposedly in a lot of aspects. Um, it would not surprise me that the church would have been involved in some of these kind of activities, knowing they could do, because they were very much the church back in the day was the government, pretty
Yeah.
much. So.
Right.
It told kings and queens who to marry and what to do.
Mm-hmm.
It had unfathomed power over things, so it would not surprise me if a lot of these secrets still hidden in the Vatican vaults, especially something like the Hounds of God.
You know, I just can't help but to ask you this, Dennis and Krista. Do you remember, Dennis, either on your show or my show, we did one of my book reviews, and you might have remembered this or not. Remember we did this story, I told the story of my book about that preacher man
Mm-hmm.
that went to that southern town in Mississippi
Yep.
that
That one.
he was a transient preacher, and he went from town to town, and he, for whatever reason, he had to pack his bags and keep moving on. And then that young couple came to him having that red-eyed demonic dogman or Doberman pincher staring in the window and projecting images on him. And he told them that they were going crazy, see psychiatrists, that this, that, and the other. And then then after months of turning them away, they took the man took his wife's life and his own life, and then the whole community all of a sudden told this preacher man that they knew about it all along. They are hiding this secret, Dennis, if you remember, the secret. They've all been experiencing this. This kind of reminds me, maybe the direction of that story or that encounter I did, because I never knew about this until today. So maybe this is a part of that. Maybe it wasn't a dog man. Maybe it wasn't a hound of hell. Maybe it was one of these wolf-like creatures that we're talking about today. Does that make sense? Do you know you remember the story, correct, Dennis?
Absolutely. I think one of the aspects of these super intelligent wolves, the Canis lupus maximus, would be the fact is that the American Indians knew about them. And like I said, they didn't talk about them. They called them the elders, by the way. They call them the elders. And they knew about them and yet cooperated with them in certain ways. So I think they were keeping their secret for them. And this was something like, we cooperate with you when you cooperate with us. We'll scratch your back, you scratch ours, kind of thing. And as long as we sort of have an unsounded treaty with each other, you don't, unalive some of our people, we don't mess with your people, kind of thing.
Sure.
There were talks a lot of talk about them having this kind of agreement with Bigfoot too. By the way, where they would not bother each other, and once in a while, maybe Bigfoot would carry off a woman or child, but they would let it go at that. And as long as it wasn't any kind of a war that went on. So I think if you were to encounter something on an intelligent level like this, you would have to be sort of form a treaty with it. You'd have to make an agreement with it and say, hey, you don't bother us, we don't bother you. We'll keep your secret, you keep ours, kind of thing. And this is another aspect, Rob and Krista, of what runs secret societies. It's all about the secret. Okay. And just like the Ku Klux Klan used to be. Why did they wear hoods? Because they didn't want anybody to know what their identity was.
Right.
That's the way it was at the beginning of the Nazi Party, by the way, too. A lot of them wore masks. They didn't want, until the Nazi Party became very popular, then it was okay. You didn't have to wear a mask anymore. That's the way it went. So that's the way it goes with secret societies. That's why they're secret. You don't want to give away. And that's why a lot of people run into these problems with a lot of these Luciferians, witchcraft, witch covens, a lot of these vampire cults. They encounter these things and they threaten their secrecy. And when you threaten their secrecy, they will unalive you quickly. They will take care of you because they hold their secrets well. We've talked about full disclosure by governments. You will never see that because the government is not going to tell you its secrets because then it would give you its power. And it's not going to share its power with you. It's not going to give you its secrets because that's the way they play their cards close to their chest.
Sure.
They're not going to let you know what they're doing. They're not going to share that power with you. Same thing with these secret societies. Same things with a lot of these things, like the Hounds of God and all these other things. They had to keep their secret. That was what drove them. And if you threatened that, then you were in a very bad situation you didn't want to be in, definitely.
Right.
So really, if you were to go about calling out a secret society, you're probably signing your own death warrant.
Well, yeah, some of the most interesting cases down through time have been people who are whistleblowers for some of these secret societies. Let me just say this and I've studied UFOs for a long, long time. Okay. Even in UFOlogy, there are a lot of unexplained deaths, strange suicides. The list goes on and on. Matter of fact, my friend Nick Redfern wrote a book about this. You would not believe how many strange deaths are connected to the UFO field. This is just one aspect. When you start delving into secrets, you better understand what you're getting yourself in for. You better be very, very careful how you walk. Let me give you a quick story. This has been about 15, 20 years ago. A guy contacted me one day and he said, I heard you're involved in demonology. He wanted to talk to me about demonology aspect of things. And here's what he was saying. I'm not going to call any names here, okay? But he was investigating a certain political family that was in the White House. And he said, I'm investigating. I'm going to start going deeper into research on this. And that they have, supposedly unalived some people and all that. And I told him, I said, well, you better be very, very careful because if these people are doing what we think they're doing, you can be very, very much in danger. And 2 weeks later, he was dead.
Wow.
After this phone call from a supposedly car accident. Very convenient. Okay. That's the way these guys work. And that's the way people will hold their secrets. If you threaten their secrets, they will turn hell wide open on you if necessary to preserve those secrets. And I have actually encountered places that were ritual areas out in the woods, out in during some of my field research and all that. And I warn people about that. If you ever come up on these sites, if you ever find them, get out immediately. Don't stay around there. Don't hang around because they guard these places well. Okay, and they will take care of you if you invade their territory, just like these wolf creatures we're talking about, and some of these other things that are out there. If you threaten their territory, you threaten them, and
Right.
you better be ready to pay a price because they will make you pay a price when you threaten them. And one more thing about these so-called super intelligent wolves, um, if they are living, like they say, concurrently with us, living in our cities with us, hiding in the shadows, watching us, preying on us when they want to, they are going to guard their secret very
Sure.
well, to the point where you better hope you don't find out that secret, or you don't encroach on their territory, because then they will make you definitely pay a price.
Wow. Pretty crazy.
You got me thinking about all these secret societies now, other than the basics like the Illuminati. We're talking about these secretive wolf packs of wolves, and so it got me thinking. There's probably more secret societies here. Let's just call it on our planet than anybody's willing to even investigate or dabble in. You know how you're talking about aliens earlier. I'll bet you that we all walk past an alien entity walking through the shopping mall, on vacation, wherever we are. And I'm just wondering if they've got their own specific societies set up. I'm just wondering how many of these societies are out there, Dennis, that could perhaps threaten, you know, us basic, normal, average human beings.
Right.
I think without a doubt, Rob, and I have seen this with my own eyes. Okay, that there are alien probes on this planet. I think we're being watched constantly by many different factors, not just aliens, but things like these wolves and other things as well. Secret societies, the list goes on and on. Our government is watching us. We're always being watched. No matter where we go, no matter what we do, there are eyes on us. Without a doubt. I think there are some certain actors out there that will stop at nothing to take care of us if we encroach upon their territory, definitely. And they are waiting for that opportunity. And also, I think a lot of this stuff that's going on in this world is experimentation to a certain extent. They're experimenting with us. They're trying to figure out what they need to do to push our buttons or to get us more control over. So whatever the situation is, things are very interested in us. And I think we're being experimented upon, not just alien probes and all this other stuff, but I'm saying, without a doubt, there are a lot of actors out there that are out to control us. They're out to manipulate us to a certain extent. Being involved in demonology, I've seen that on many different levels. And the invasion of these things goes far beyond what you would normally think. It is into every aspect of our existence. It's almost in the water that we drink and the air that we breathe. I did a show not long ago, and some of this weather manipulation stuff that's going on. These weird fogs that people are encountering that's burning their eyes and their throat. There is a nano dust, what we call smart dust, that is actually nanotechnology. You can inhale this stuff, and it will accumulate in your body. and turn you into part of the technology that they want you to become.
Man.
There are a lot of factors going on in our world that are not really have our best interest at heart. Put it that way. They definitely do not.
You're even talking about these actors and some of these Hollywood celebrities, and I'm not singling anybody out, but they're not for us, right? A lot of these are part of these secret societies. Not to change the subjects, I don't, but since we kind of evolved into the societies, we really can't trust the people that have the money, can we?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. You got to remember one thing about money, especially dark money. We call it dark money because you don't know where it really comes from. It's not legitimate earnings, okay? Just like you and I write a book, we have legitimate earnings off of that. But dark money means that it's coming from somewhere else. It's usually not a nice place, okay? And there's a lot of dark money in this world, and you got to remember one thing: wherever the money is, that's where the power is, because you don't have one without the other. And I say this about certain celebrities and certain things. I think a lot of things are going on today in a certain part of our country because it had to be that way. If you do some kind of evil stuff, if you are into some bad things, you may eventually pay a price one way or the other. Okay, that's just the way that goes. It's kind of like that old saying: "You will sow what you will reap what you sow." Okay, and if you out sowing negative stuff and doing negative things, what do you expect you're going to get out of it? You're going to pay a negative price for it. That's just the way that usually goes. And if you were involved in some dark, very dark stuff, you will face a dark judgment eventually. I feel without a doubt. That's just the way the wheels turn. And I think you may be seeing that today. Unfortunately, a lot of innocent people are affected by these things as well. That's the way it goes. But I think without a doubt, you may be seeing some of this stuff playing out right now, because I mean, we've all heard a lot of stories that have come out of off the West Coast about cannibal parties, and the list goes on and on, vampires and the whole works. Uh, if you're gonna have a dark place like that, if you're gonna go to a dark place, you got to expect to reap a dark reward.
You think that dark reward is some of these folks in Hollywood or entertainers that we hear about the pact? Do they make pacts with the devil to be successful? I always talk about the rhythm and blues guitar player, 21 years old. His name slips my memory. He could not play a guitar for a lick. Okay, he went to the crossroads. Forgot his name. Johnny. People in chat probably know his name. Dennis, you might even know. Couldn't play guitar for a lick. Then he heard about the crossroads, or it was a crossing of where perhaps the devil. You can meet up and talk with the devil. And supposedly he went to the crossroads, Dennis, and he said, "Look, I just want to play fabulous guitar." He comes back a week later, the same man who could not play the rhythm guitar, any guitar. He was a blues guitarist. Tried to be a blues guitarist. He came back and he was one of the most. He laid down some blues guitar riffs that were fabulous, blew the people away. How'd you get so good? You sucked 24 hours ago, and now you are just ripping it. And then he died like a year later. Now there's speculation, it's conjecture. I don't know. It's true. It's a story. Supposedly it went down.
Well,
that's what they're doing in Hollywood. I think. Do you think Hollywood in general are selling themselves, signing that blood contract?
There's an old saying, Rob. With money, you can buy anything. Okay, and like I said earlier, money is power, and power is money. Okay, I think there are certain dark contracts that are made in this world, without a doubt. I've seen some of them. Okay. There are certain dark contracts, agreements, whatever name you want to call them. They are legally binding to the very aspect of your soul. Okay. And if you make an agreement with this kind of negativity, and I'm hedging my bets here, and if you make that kind of agreement, you're going to pay a price eventually. No matter how good you play the guitar or whatever it was, there's an old saying, the devil's always waiting at the crossroads to make a deal.
Yeah.
You know? And if you sign on the dotted line, you can get whatever you want, but look at what the price will be. Are you ready to pay that price?
Well, that was Robert Johnson, by the way. Thanks to Kimber. I had a mental block there. I always kind of refer to him with these pacts with the devil. And sure enough, terrible guitar player, fantastic guitar player, dead guitar player in under a year. That was his contract. And I often wonder if a lot of these megastars that have had no talent for years and years, then all of a sudden, Dennis, they come out of the woodwork and they are mega millionaires, billionaires. Whether I like them or not, it doesn't matter. It's immaterial. People have suggested that many of these entertainers, whether it be Hollywood, acting, or singing, they are part of some of these secret societies, or which takes them to the depths and beyond.
Right.
A place we don't want to dare go to.
The most addictive thing on this planet, more addictive than cocaine, meth, whatever you want to come up with. The most addictive thing on this planet is power.
Mm-hmm.
The more you get, the more you want, and you'll do anything for that power. Power is hooked up directly to the darkness.
Right.
And the deeper into the darkness you go, the harder it is to come back. And once you go too far, there is a point of no return. You will lose your humanity to that darkness. And when you lose your humanity, you also forfeit your soul.
Right.
Power, the root of all evil.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I got to do something on my real quick. Chris, if you want to continue on, I'll be right back in a second.
Yep. So you have a couple questions here, Dennis. Sorry, I got a cat here that's sitting on my table. Mike asks, he says, question, do you think wolves and dogmen work together in the wild in terms of hunting and etc.?
I think there may be some cooperation, definitely, between some of these things. I think a lot of activity of dogman may be connected to conjuring. There's a lot of evidence that shows that once you open certain spiritual doorways, you can call things out of the darkness.
Amen.
And some of these things may be something like very similar to dogman. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. A couple more questions. Standing Stones asks, does Dennis think that the dogman could have been a hybrid made by man?
It's a possibility. And let me say this. I think this is my own theory, that a lot of these cryptids are directly connected to the Nephilim. The Nephilim experiment. We know that fallen angels did not only try to procreate with human women, but they also messed around with hybridization of animals and people. And I think that is where you may have gotten a lot of these so-called cryptids from that hybridization.
Right. Makes sense to me. Sorry, I got to move this cat. She's just really.
He's not getting it to the computer. It's warmer.
Well, I'll tell you what. I don't see her all day long until I do a show with Rob. She's right there. It's funny. Anelia asks, Second question. Ancient Egypt displayed an intelligent depiction of dogmen, wolfmen. Maybe they are not not disappear, but are still here. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, the ancient gods of Egypt are very fascinating. They all represented different animals. I call them spiritual type animals that they were connected to, like the jackal, Anubis, and the crocodile-headed god, and Bast, the cat-headed god, and on and on and on. These animals represented for them a spiritual aspect of their religion. That's why they were sort of the hybrid between the animal and people. Um, I think that's a fascinating aspect of Egyptology, and the fact is that uh, they had sort of like the American Indians, they had sort of spiritual animals that they attributed certain powers to.
Yeah, makes sense. BMR, I'm just going over questions.
Yeah, that's cool. I had to, with Mama.
I totally understand.
Yeah, Mama. She's doing good, everybody. Thanks for all your well wishes, everybody. I love you guys. That's awesome. She's doing a lot better. Thank you. So yeah. And also I want to thank everybody for coming on in tonight. Great show. If you haven't seen the start of the show, we're talking about the secret interdimensional wolf packs. These secret, they're infiltrating our society, and they're not dogman, they're not werewolf. They're kind of a secret society. And it's suggested that they are perhaps what, Dennis, of an alien nature, or just an unknown phenomena, correct? For those just coming on in.
That's true. I was going to explain something about the werewolf since we were talking about darkness.
Yeah.
It's interesting to note that to become a true werewolf, you obtain a certain amount of power on the ladder of darkness, you might say. The further and deeper into the darkness you go, the more powers that you accumulate. When you become a full-fledged werewolf, you can only change back and forth so many times. Eventually, it becomes harder and harder for you to come back to your human form. Eventually, sooner or later, you will end up as a werewolf permanently. There will be no change back for you because this black magic has the price of your humanity. And once you lose your humanity, there goes your soul as well.
Yeah.
That's a great point you bring up. I'd like to discuss that because, I believe in most all the things we talk about. I really do. That's why I do this. And I've always debated this, not debated. I talk with the whole gang, Krista, Brandy, blah, 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 Tex. And for a human being to shapeshift, take the anatomy, the structure, the molecular system, or the anatomy, for a man to physically change into a werewolf, to go through that metamorphosis, the extended legs and arms, the expanded chest, the head, that's going to bust all your bones. That's going to kill the average human being. So my thought always long ago was, if you did get this black magic or get this curse and you shifted into a werewolf, I don't think there's any coming back, because I think that your body is killed and destroyed. Is it not? I mean, does that make sense to you?
Well, it's sort of going in reverse, Rob.
Okay.
When you're sort of, when you go to change back, you're going backwards and reverse, and again,
Okay.
in that respect. But I think without a doubt, it would take a toll on your body eventually. The fact is, and I've studied skinwalkers a lot too, which are very similar to werewolves. The skinwalkers, the black magic of the skinwalker, eventually will turn against them, and they will lose their humanity as well in that, and they will become whatever animal, like a coyote or whatever it was that they were trying to accomplish permanently. That's why I say when you fool around with the darkness, you're going to always pay a price, whatever it may be. And the price is usually your soul. But you're dealing with outside forces beyond the natural, which is what we call it supernatural. And when you go over into the supernatural, you're going against the laws of the universe. You're going outside the law. I call it outside the grace of God, actually. You're going outside the laws of the universe, the way things are made. We got to look at it this way. All magic, black magic, is geared to changing the perception of your reality.
Mm-hmm.
And when you change the perception of reality, you are going against what your creator has already fixed up. You're going against what the certain precepts that are already in place. You are going against the will of your creator. And when you change the perception of reality, and we call this, by the way, we call it using the glamour on things. It's a glamour. It's a magic that gets you to see things the way they want you to see things. But it is a big lie. Okay,
Kind of like the
One
vampire uses the glamour
of
as
the
well.
worst lies that you can do to someone
Mm.
by changing and warping their perception of reality. That is very much like, and I've talked to people about this too. Said, "Oh, I felt Bigfoot try to contact me with my mind, and I felt other
Mm-hmm.
things." Anything that ever touches your mind that
Mhm.
way is not a good thing, okay, usually, because that is the ultimate invasion of privacy.
Mm-hmm.
It is sort of like spiritual rape, okay? It is it is not a good thing to do to someone or something, okay? And we got to remember something else. I did a show on this not long ago. We all have a spiritual aura around us. Okay. We call it our personal space. You get uncomfortable when somebody gets in your personal space. You get uncomfortable when somebody touches you too much or something like that. It begins to bother you because they are invading your spiritual space.
Mm-hmm.
Even animals have this. You get too close to a bear, you're going to find out. Okay. You
Right.
get close to an animal, it's going to attack you usually. It's not going to like it.
Mm.
Same thing with people. People get very aggressive with you if you get in in their personal space. This is a built-in thing, okay? That this is a spiritual space that's around you. I think it's sort of like a bumper kind of a thing. It's there for a reason. And whenever you invade it, whether you're touching somebody or you're sending them bad energy or you're giving them energy, whatever the situation is, whenever you invade that space, whether it be mentally, physically, or emotionally, or spiritually, you are affronting that person.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing something kind of bad to that person, okay? Here's what I tell people a lot of times. Be careful who you let touch you.
Mm-hmm.
I know this sounds
Mm.
weird, but you have to be very careful because a lot of people, there are a lot of energy vampires out there that if they touch you, they can steal energy from you. And here's the bad thing. Here's the reverse of it. They can send you bad energy too.
Mm-hmm.
So people can make you sick by touching you. Certain people that don't like you, they want to get something bad over you. All they gotta do is touch you. Okay. Think about this. You can see this happen in churches and stuff like that. When people pray for each other, it's called the laying on of hands. You ever wondered about
Right.
that? The laying
Mm-hmm.
on of hands is a spiritual connection thing going on. Okay, that's me transferring my energy to you,
Yep.
and vice versa. Okay, when we touch, we have a special connection. We have a rapport going on. So be very careful who you make that connection with.
Sure.
And make sure it's not somebody wanting to give you a bad time.
Right.
Okay, because there are a lot of people out there that and they put a lot of spells in food. They put spells in drink. I've even got reports the other day of people getting phone calls and they answer the phone and there's chanting on the other end.
Wow.
Don't answer the phone, okay? 'Cause
No.
Know the number. Don't answer it.
And here's a vampire trick. I talked about this on my show the other night, and I call devil tricks. If you ever walk outside and you find a rose laying out on your doorstep, don't pick it up and take it back in the house.
A rose? Would you say a rose?
Don't do that because that's not a good idea. What you're doing is answering an invitation,
Hmm.
authorizing something. Okay,
Right.
by taking that thing back in the house with you. Be very, very careful how you deal with these things on a spiritual level because it can very badly affect you physically.
Yeah.
You know, I've often wondered. I'm not going to talk about church. BMR does not go to church. I believe in God, Jesus Christ, but I don't go. I haven't gone 20 years. Doesn't mean I don't believe in God because I do, and I'm going to leave it at that. But let me ask you this then. I owned a bar for 13 years, and I tell you, and I was always sober at work. I never drank on the job. I let some of my employees do it. If people bought them drinks, fine, whatever. But and I always worked. I was a hands-on owner. I wasn't one of these guys that didn't work. I was there hands-on 7 days a week, 80 hours a week sometimes. And there would be weird people that I'd never seen before. They weren't regulars, Dennis, and they would come in the bar and I'm pretty good. People know this about me. I can sum up a person's character pretty quickly. I can tell you if you're up to no good or if you're good or if you're a good person. I've always been able to do that. And I've had a couple of these people throughout the 13-year period, 7 or 8 different times this happened. And there's this one guy that started coming in. He'd sit by himself at the end of the bar. Wasn't social with anybody. You know, he had his normal. I remember exactly what he would get. He would get a bottle of Heineken, a shot of Jack Daniels, and he always had his watch on. And every 15 minutes, he would get another one. He'd probably drink 3 of each. And the guy did not look right to me. Very pale, very nondescript. I'm not going to say he's an alien. Okay. I'm not going to say that. However, and this is well before I got involved with this stuff. Looking back on all the people I've seen, I begin to wonder. But every time this guy came in, Dennis, I always went out of my way to be nice to the customers, shake their hand, talk to them, welcome to the bar. I mean, I'm a businessman, marketing guy. I want them to keep coming back. But it seemed like it was weird because every time this guy came in, I would greet myself. I would extend my hand and shake his hand, Dennis. And now, for the life of me, I always wondered why, when I seen this guy, and I thought he would look strange, odd as hell. He spoke gibberish, and I didn't even know what the hell he was talking about half the time, right? And every time he was in, and I would shake the hand, welcome back, having the usual Heineken and Jack, dude. By the end of the night, I was sick. I got a sickness came over me where I had to physically go home and could not work. And I find it odd now that you bring this up, and I'm thinking back in my life at the bar, that happened to me on several occasions with people that I felt were odd or not maybe of this realm. Maybe they were an alien. Maybe there's something. I don't know what they were. Maybe they weren't even a human being. Does that make sense to you? Now, what you're saying right now I'm putting 2 and 2 together. I might have been with some of these forces because in the bar, I've had 1 million people walk through that place in 13 years.
I'm gonna say this: there are a lot of things walking around out there that may look human, but they're not. And there are a lot of things out there walking around that once were human, but they are not so any longer. In law enforcement, I ran into a lot of those. The second guy, definitely. They were lost souls, absolutely. But like this guy you're talking about, we have a spiritual barometer built into us. And we need to pay more attention to that barometer, okay? Because when it puts up red flags, we don't need to ignore that. Absolutely. And I'm going to tell you this. There have been certain times in my career when I have encountered evil so real that it was like parting a curtain in front of me. I could feel that that real. Okay,
Mhm.
evil can do that, but
Yep.
we have to be very careful with the evil that shows us a pretty face and not its true nature. It's like we always talk about false friends or fair weather friends. They're always around for a good laugh, but when you really need them, they're not there.
They're gone.
That's
Mhm.
not a friend. Okay, definitely not a friend.
Right.
Evil puts on its interesting face sometimes, and it can fool us if we're not careful. And that's what we need to be very careful and cautious about. Sometimes you can feel it, and it's right in your face.
Mhm.
Sometimes it can be rather ambiguous to understand. But we all, I think, have a built-in spiritual barometer or an
Mhm.
alarm that goes off when we are in the wrong presence and probably the wrong thing. I'm gonna be doing the show pretty soon. I'm gonna teach people how to actually spot angels and demons.
Oh wow.
Sometimes they're not very obvious, okay, but we need to understand what we're dealing with sometimes, and to see these things for what they really are. I have actually seen full-bodied apparitions, and at the time, I didn't even know it was a ghost. It looked that real, you know. Anybody that's ever had that happen, they know what I'm talking about. It fools you because it doesn't look like a ghost. Okay,
Right.
ghosts you always think about in Hollywood. You can see through them. Like no, it looked real. I mean, it looked solid. These things can fool you. You have to be very careful what you're dealing with and understand what it is that you're coming up against.
Mhm.
And we need to be very cautious around, especially around strangers and people that we really don't know. Now, I'm not talking about your loved ones hugging your neck and all that. I'm talking about people that we don't know or people that we're not familiar with. We need to be very cautious
Yep.
around these things because, like I said, everything that we see in this universe is not what it may appear to be.
Right. That's even, like you were talking about, I'm not saying that like people that I work with are necessarily like that, but like they're energy vampires. You know what I'm saying? So even like people at my job, I stay away from, because my gut tells me like, listen, they're just not a very good person or they're a little shady or something. You just have that feeling, but they're also energy vampires. They just suck it right out of you. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, and I've also had other reports where people are actually being touched by these energy vampires, and then they show up in their dreams later that night.
Wow.
That's freaky too when you think about it. That's not good either. That's an
Oh,
invasion.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's awful.
Yeah, it's just like talking about these energy vampires, and Krista knows this. Most of my friends know this. I got my best friend who I hate. Most negative guy on the planet. I stopped fielding his phone calls at 2:05 p.m. each and every single day because he's driving home from work. He's a truck driver, and all he does is bitch and complain about poor people driving. And dude, Dennis, and everyone listening, and every time the guy calls me, this went on for months and months and months, and all I would do is hear him bitch. And when he hung up, man, I had a migraine. I don't get migraines, so it probably was not a migraine, but I was always when I got done with him, Dennis, I felt drained. I felt I had no energy. I got very agitated at the simplest of things. And then one day I just decided I gotta stop answering my phone when this guy calls me
Right.
because he's draining me. He's draining my inner being, man, or something. So when I stopped answering his phone call, do you
Mhm.
know that all went away?
Yep.
So there's some truth to
You did the
people
right thing.
draining,
You
you
did
know?
the right thing, definitely.
Yeah.
I said that to a lot of people, Rob. There's a lot of vampires out there don't just suck your blood. Okay, they're out
Right,
for other
right,
things as
yeah,
well,
right.
and we've got to be very, very careful who we deal with. And if somebody like I say, if the red flags go off, we need to distance ourselves. Let me put it this way: you would not hang around somebody that uses and abuses you. Okay.
Right.
So just another way of doing that. Okay. And you wouldn't want to put up with this either, you know. So it's
Right.
time. It's time for us to take our welcome mats in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't have no welcome mats in my house.
Me either. I'm not inviting anything in my house.
Yep.
You know, once you welcome them in, that's their opportunity.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you what, and I warned people about this before. A lot of spells are cast by just handing somebody a certain item or an object, and once you take that object or that item, that's yours.
Mm-hmm.
Spiritually, physically, mentally, it belongs to you until you pass it on to somebody else, which is not a good idea, but that's the way it works. But be very careful. That's why your mother always taught you not to take things from strangers. Everything that people are doing out there is not usually with good intentions, unfortunately.
Yeah. So true.
I often find that the people, especially strangers or people you don't know that are super sweet to you, and maybe this is my defense mechanism, I don't know, or maybe it's my paranormal or my paranoia. I find that people you don't know that are super sweet to you, they have other intentions. They're really not. They're sweet for a reason because they want something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry to have that thought, but that's the way I protect myself. Was that a bad way to think, Dennis? You think?
No, absolutely, I agree with that. You know, it's like that old saying that there used to be in the vow of knighthood: do good to all and wrong no one. That's the way you want to be treated.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
I think there's so many fake people out there and people that want something, they do that to fool you, which is a sad thing because I'm pretty much, I talk to everybody. Hey, I'm a handshaker. I'm a hugger. I hug people. I hug strangers for God's sakes, you know. Hey, how you doing? Give them a hug. That's just me. I mean, I do. I mean, I've been doing it for my whole life. Now that I've started doing this, I kind of refrain a little bit, but it's my personality. I talk to people at the gas station all the time. You know, when I'm in line, I talk to everybody. And I find, though, the less I back off of that, the better off sometimes I am.
Mm-hmm.
Because oftentimes, and that's the sad thing about society, like we're talking about these interdimensional wolf packs, man. They're out for blood or something. And I don't like walking through life like that. All I'm saying is, and after, you know, what we're talking about today is, you have your head on a swivel and just make informative decisions. You know, weigh what's going on because you just never know who you're talking to or coming across.
Right.
So,
Absolutely, you know, we need to be very cautious with how we approach things and not throw caution to the winds, as they used to say. We may not be the sharpest knife in the drawer, but we got to try to stay sharp as possible. Okay, and that's what we got to do. That's what we got to, you know, work on. Because, like I say, everybody doesn't have our best interest at heart.
Right.
Unfortunately, that's the way that goes.
And I always think you have to rely on your instincts. I'm going to tell this story. I always tell. We only have a few minutes left. And Dennis, I might have told you, I don't know. You're going to like this one. And Krista knows where I'm going with this. For many years, I met this kid. I was 6 years old. Jimmy, I thought he was an evil guy. I told my mom and dad, hey, you know, Jimmy's evil. And my mom or dad, I'm 6 or 7, you know. My mom or dad, evil. Jimmy, where'd you even come up with that word? My mom and dad didn't even swear in front of me until I turned 18. You know, they were tight-lipped, right? No cussing, right?
Wow.
And they just, they were pretty good. Now, then once I turned 18, my dad, you know, was like a sailor. But anyway, it was like, yeah, you know, I think the kid's evil. Where'd you even get that word out of? Blah, blah, blah. And so I knew this kid. He lived on my street. Throughout my life, I just did not like it. I told my friends, stay away from Jimmy. I had this bad vibe, Dennis. And throughout my whole life, I can sense people. I can sense them. When I interview people at the bar, I didn't look at their application. I talked to them for 3 minutes, and I knew if they would work out or not, right? I felt their intention. I felt this kid had bad intentions all along. High school, grade school. Then in high school, we're playing soccer, and we got into we were playing a soccer game, Dennis, and I fell on the ground. I'm wrapped, and I'm touching this guy. We're rolling on the ground, and I pushed myself away from this guy because my body got struck with dread, and this guy just scared me. And I ran away from this kid like a little baby. And all my friends and all the kids in high school, this is junior 11th grade. Rob, what are you doing, you little P-U-S-S-Y? Why are you running from that guy for? You're scared. My face was white. This is the same kid who I thought was bad. I said, man, I told you guys about Jimmy. I got a bad vibe, blah, blah, blah. Oh, whatever, Rob, you just don't like him. Long story short, I go off to college, and I always told my mom about Jimmy, and I thought he was evil, as I said. I get home from college, and they said, hey, you know your buddy Jimmy? Ha, ha, ha. Well, of course, not my buddy. He goes, Rob, we all thought you were not crazy, but just didn't like the kid. Rob, your buddy Jimmy, he's in prison. He murdered his grandmother. You were right all along about this guy. I always tell that story because I know who I am, and I can sense this.
Yep.
And yeah, your first inclination about somebody, you run with it, and you run away like I always tried to from this kid. Despite the fact that people ridicule me for calling this guy out, I knew, and sure enough, man, killed his grandmother, unalived her.
Wow. And you knew from a kid, that goes to tell you, even as a child, you had
I knew at 6, 10, 12, high school years, went to college. I got the story. Boom, what he did.
Mm-hmm.
And I preached it for a decade and a half, maybe 8, 10 years. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Rob, you just don't like him for whatever reason.
Let me tell you a quick story right quick.
Go ahead.
This guy I knew him, I think it was back in grade school. And matter of fact, he's still alive today. And I never liked him. There was something about him I just never I didn't trust him. I didn't like him. And he never was mean to me. I mean, he didn't do anything to me, but I mean, there was just that feeling I had about him, And anyway, I lost touch with this guy for a long, long time. And about maybe 20 years later, I heard about him again. This guy murdered my cousin.
Ah, man.
And he's still in prison for it right now. And I've often wondered about that. I said, I had a feeling about this guy all that time. I didn't know him that well, but it was just, like you get confirmation of something like that, and it's freaky,
Yeah.
It is freaky. And I'll give a little backstory now on this other Jimmy guy, which now even makes sense because so I knew where Jimmy lived, and I lived along a creek back in the day, and I bought my mom and dad's old house back because I loved the neighborhood, right? When I got divorced. And, we would run our BMX bikes on this trail, and the trail went along the creek, and backing up the creek with a lot of houses with big backyards. And again, I'm talking about this kid, Jimmy, and I found this out later in life. Me and my friends that were riding our bikes came across this horrendous sight on the trail. There were these cats that were strong-skinned and hung by their necks in the tree line of the creek. 4 or 5 of them, and they were skinned, Dennis, and everyone listening, skinned. Backed up to this house, and I'm looking at this house, and I started doing my little investigation. Who the hell lives there, You know who lived there, Dennis? Jimmy.
Well, there's a little psycho waiting to happen, wasn't you?
Yeah, and they said, Tex will dig this one. He knows this answer. All your serial killers started out murdering small animals.
I've actually had some parents say that to me. Say, I hope I'm not raising the next serial killer. That's a bad thing to think about.
It is.
Yep.
It is. We're getting a little dark with that. This has been a great show. Really quickly, Dennis, I want to thank I can't pull it up here. I want to thank T-Bone for gifting 5 new pirate memberships today. And the lovely Anella for the awesome super sticker. Thank you for the support and love. Hey, if you're new here, please subscribe to Bigfoot Michiganrob on YouTube, The Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast on YouTube, Texas Front Porch, Donnie Cho Says So, Our Paranormal World with Monica Rollins, Paranormal Paul. I saw Josh Turner was in here. Go over to PRT, subscribe if not already, who hasn't. Check him out. Dennis Carroll, Hunting the Shadows. Subscribe to him on YouTube. And Dennis, you also got books. Where else can we find you, my friend?
Yeah, my books are on Barnes & Noble and Amazon. Just look up Dennis W. Carroll. And you can reach me at denniswcarroll.com or denniswcarroll@gmail.com. I also have a paranormal consulting service. If you need any kind of a consultation of a paranormal problem at all, you can get in contact with me through my website, denniswcarroll.com. And I'm going to leave you with a quick werewolf joke.
Yes, please
Okay,
do.
kind of lighten things up here. It's about 2 werewolves sitting on the front porch. It's a werewolf couple. And the guy's telling his wife, says, "You know, honey, I'm tired. Let's eat in tonight. I'll order a pizza guy."
That's good.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That's too funny.
That was awesome. Yeah. But anybody, hey, you guys, listen, there was like 140 in chat today, Dennis. I think for me, that's a record. Yeah. So, but if you're coming in late, you got to watch the replay because, Dennis, I tell you what, all the shows you do with me are great. But this one here was it was different, something I never heard about. And I thought it was just a tremendous show. You know, hey, Dennis Carroll, check him out. I highly recommend Dennis because he knows what he's talking about. And you're down to earth. You're truthful. You're respectful, Dennis. That's what I love most about you. And you're always available to me whenever I have a question for you. And I'm glad we're friends, brother.
Absolutely. Yep.
Always a pleasure, brother. And Krista's always good to see you again.
Yep. Likewise.
With that being said, we're going to end the show as long as I find the, you know what I'm looking for, Krista.
The end button. Do you need help?
Yeah. No, I think I got it. Thanks, Dennis. Thanks, everybody. Hit the like button on your way out. Please subscribe, like, and share. I am BMR for Krista and Dennis. Have a great rest of your night.
See ya.
This is the future. Evolution. This is the future.